If I'd known my marriage was an Instagram filter away from collapse, I'd have spent less on the mortgage and more on a good lawyer. But here I was, staring at my phone screen like it held the secrets of the universe, when really it just held the secret that my wife Elise was a cheating piece of work. The text from my coworker Danny was simple enough. Dude, check Elise's Instagram. 3 words that would change everything. I should have known something was up when she started talking about girls' trips and finding herself. At 35, the only thing Elise needed to find was a sense of decency. I'm Nate Callahan, structural engineer, and I know how to build things that last. Apparently, I'm terrible at building marriages that do the same. 37 years old, and I thought I had life figured out. Shows what I know. The Instagram post was a masterpiece of betrayal. There was my wife of 8 years, champagne flute in hand, snuggled up to Matt Bixby in what was clearly a hotel suite. Matt Bixby, her boss at the law firm where she worked as a paralegal. The caption read, "Honeymoon phase never ends," with enough heart emojis to make a teenager cringe. I sat in my home office, surrounded by blueprints and engineering manuals, staring at the phone. The house was quiet. Elise was supposedly at her sister Karen's place for the weekend. Karen, who I'd never liked, with her entitled attitude and her constant suggestions that Elise deserved better than a boring engineer. My phone buzzed. A text from Travis, my best friend and former cop who now owned a gym downtown. "You seeing this Instagram thing?" I called him immediately. "Yeah, I'm seeing it." "Jesus, Nate. I'm sorry, man. What are you gonna do?" "I don't know yet." But something. Travis knew that tone. We'd been friends since college, and he'd seen me solve engineering problems that stumped entire teams. "You want me to come over?" "Not yet. I need to think." I hung up and walked through the house Elise and I had bought 3 years ago. Everything looked different now. The throw pillows she'd insisted on, the expensive coffee table she'd charged to our joint credit card, the wedding photos lining the hallway. All of it felt like evidence of a lie. My phone rang. Elise. "Hey, babe," she said, her voice artificially bright. "Just wanted to check in. Karen and I are having such a great time catching up." "I bet you are," I said, keeping my voice level. "How's the hotel?" A pause. "What hotel?" "I'm at Karen's." "The one in your Instagram post. Nice champagne flutes." The silence stretched so long I thought she'd hung up. Finally, "Nate, I can explain." "I'm sure you can." "You always were good with words." "It's not what it looks like." "It looks like you're cheating on me with your boss." "Please, explain how it's not that." We need to talk when I get home." "Do we?" Because from where I'm sitting, everything's pretty clear. She started crying then, the fake tears she used when she wanted something. "Nate, please, don't do anything crazy." "Crazy? Like posting pictures of yourself with another man while you're supposed to be at your sister's? That kind of crazy?" I hung up. The thing about being an engineer is that you learn to think systematically. Problem identification, analysis, solution design, implementation. My problem was clear. Cheating wife and her entitled family had made me look like a fool. The analysis would take some digging, but the solution? That was already forming in my mind. I opened my laptop and started researching. Matt Bixby, 42, divorced, drove a flashy Range Rover that he parked in the law firm's lot like he owned the place. From his social media, he was the type who thought expensive watches and designer suits made up for a complete lack of character. My phone buzzed with notifications. The Instagram post was getting attention. Comments from Elise's friends, some of whom I recognized. Jillian, her closest friend, had written, "You two are so cute together." Stephanie, another friend from her yoga class. "Finally, you deserve to be happy." Finally? Like she'd been suffering through our marriage? I screenshotted everything. Then I did something that felt both petty and necessary. I shared the screenshot to our family group chat, the one that included my parents, her sister Karen, and a few close relatives. I added a simple message. Thought you'd want to see the honeymoon suite Elise is enjoying this weekend? My phone exploded with notifications. Calls, texts, angry messages from Karen defending her sister, shocked messages from my mom, confused questions from relatives who didn't understand what was happening. I turned off my phone and sat in the quiet house, planning my next move. She always said the devil was in the details. Turns out, he drives a Range Rover and takes Instagram photos with other men's wives. The locksmith arrived at 8 a.m. Monday morning, a gruff guy named Pete, who didn't ask questions when I told him I needed every lock in the house changed immediately. Cash up front has a way of discouraging curiosity. All of them? Pete asked, looking at his clipboard. Front door, back door, garage, the works. Everything. I want new keys for everything. While Pete worked, I systematically went through the house, packing Elise's belongings into boxes and garbage bags. 8 years of marriage reduced to containers on the front porch. Her clothes, her books, her collection of scented candles that made the house smell like a department store. All of it went outside. I was careful to document everything with photos. My lawyer friend Jenna had texted me early that morning. Heard about the Instagram thing. Call me. Don't do anything stupid, but document everything you do. The neighborhood was already buzzing. Mrs. Huggins from next door was pretending to water her plants while obviously watching the locksmith work. She'd probably already posted about it in the neighborhood Facebook group. Good. Let everyone see what happens when you make a fool of Nate Callahan. My phone had been ringing all morning. Elise, Karen, even Elise's mother. I ignored them all. Travis showed up around 10 with coffee and donuts. "You're really doing this," he said, surveying the boxes on the porch. "Damn right I am." Good. She had it coming. Travis bit into a donut and watched Pete install the final lock. "What's next?" "I'm thinking about that." "Whatever you're planning, I'm in." That's why Travis was my best friend. No judgment, no lectures about forgiveness or working things out. Just simple loyalty. Pete finished up and handed me a set of shiny new keys. All done. Nobody's getting in without these. I paid him and he left. The boxes sat on the porch like a monument to betrayal. I taped an envelope to the front door, divorce papers that Jenna had prepared over the weekend, along with a restraining order that would keep both Elise and Matt away from the house. Around noon, a car pulled into the driveway. Elise's silver Honda, with Karen in the passenger seat for moral support. They sat in the car for a few minutes, probably arguing about strategy. Finally, they got out and approached the porch. Elise looked terrible. Her makeup was smeared, her hair was a mess, and she was wearing the same clothes from the Instagram post. Poetic justice. "Nate!" she called out, trying the front door and finding it locked. "Open the door." "We need to talk." I opened the window instead. "We talked yesterday. You explained how it wasn't what it looked like, except it was exactly what it looked like." "This is insane," Karen shouted. "You can't just lock her out of her own house." "Watch me," I said, "and it's my house." "Check the deed." Elise started crying again. "Nate, please. It was just one night. It didn't mean anything." "One night?" The Instagram post said, "Honeymoon phase never ends." That sounds like more than one night. "You're being ridiculous," Karen said. "Marriages have problems. You work through them." "Some problems, sure. But when your wife posts pictures of herself with another man while lying about where she is, that's not a problem. That's a choice." Elise picked up the envelope taped to the door, her hand shaking as she read the papers inside. A restraining order? "Nate, this is crazy." "What's crazy is thinking you could humiliate me publicly and then come home like nothing happened. I never meant to humiliate you." "Then you shouldn't have posted it on Instagram for everyone to see." Karen stepped forward, her face red with anger. "You can't just throw her out. She has rights. She had a marriage. She threw that away for champagne and hotel rooms with her boss. Now she has boxes on a porch and legal papers. Seems fair to me. A small crowd had gathered. Mrs. Huggins was no longer pretending to water plants. She was openly staring. A few other neighbors had found excuses to check their mailboxes or walk their dogs. The whole street was getting a show. "Please," Elise said, her voice breaking. "Can we just talk inside? Like adults?" Adults don't cheat on their spouses and then lie about it. Adults don't post pictures of themselves with other people's husbands. Adults don't make their families look like fools on social media. I made a mistake. You made a choice. Multiple choices. The mistake was thinking I'd just take it. Travis appeared beside me at the window. "Everything okay here, Nate?" "Just fine. Elise and Karen were just leaving." "We're not going anywhere until you let her in that house," Karen said. "Then you're going to be here a long time," Travis said. His voice had that cop tone he used when he needed people to understand they were out of options. Elise looked at the boxes, at the neighbors watching, at the legal papers in her hands. Finally, she seemed to understand that this wasn't going to be fixed with tears and apologies. "Where am I supposed to go?" she asked. "That's not my problem anymore. Maybe Matt has room in his Range Rover." Karen helped Elise load some of the boxes into the Honda. They drove away without another word, leaving half the boxes still on the porch. I'd donate them to charity later. The neighbors slowly dispersed, probably rushing home to share the gossip. My phone was already buzzing with texts from people who'd heard about the confrontation. "Phase 1 complete," I told Travis. "What's Phase 2? I smiled. Matt Bixby's about to learn that some engineers know how to destroy things as well as build them. Finding Matt Bixby's Range Rover wasn't hard. The man was predictable. Every Friday night, he held court at Murphy's Bar downtown, showing off for whoever would pay attention. I'd driven past the place enough times with Elise to know his routine. Travis and I sat in my truck across the street, watching the entrance. It was 8 p.m., and Matt's ridiculous silver Range Rover was parked right where I expected it to be, taking up 2 spaces because apparently regular parking spaces weren't good enough for him. "You sure about this?" Travis asked. "Absolutely. I'd spent the week planning. My engineering background was useful for more than just designing buildings. It also helped you understand how things could be taken apart, or modified in creative ways." We waited until Matt went inside, then crossed the street. I had a bag of supplies, zip ties, a can of expanding foam, and several pounds of frozen shrimp I'd bought that afternoon. Travis kept watch while I worked. First, the zip ties. I secured them around the door handles, making it impossible to open the doors from the outside. The Range Rover's fancy electronic locks wouldn't help when the handles were physically restrained. Next, I popped the hood and located the air intake. The expanding foam went in there, not enough to cause permanent damage, but enough to make the engine run rough and smoke dramatically when started. Finally, the shrimp. I stuffed them into the exhaust pipe, as far back as I could reach. In a few days, when the weather warmed up, Matt's expensive SUV would smell like a fish market in August. For the finishing touch, I used window chalk to write "Homewrecker" across the windshield in large block letters. "Jesus, Nate," Travis said, admiring the work. "Remind me never to piss you off." We retreated to my truck and waited. 20 minutes later, Matt stumbled out of the bar with 2 other guys, clearly drunk and talking loudly about some business deal he was working on. He stopped short when he saw his vehicle. "What the hell?" he shouted, trying to pull the driver's door open. The zip ties held firm. He walked around the Range Rover, tugging at each door, his face getting redder by the minute. His friends found it hilarious. "Dude, someone really doesn't like you," one of them said. "This is vandalism. This is illegal." Matt yelled at no one in particular. Other people started coming out of the bar to see what the commotion was about. Soon, there was a crowd of about 15 people, all laughing and taking pictures with their phones. Someone was definitely live streaming this. Matt called the police, but when they arrived, They seemed more amused than concerned. Zip ties weren't permanent damage, the chalk would wash off, and there was no law against putting shrimp in someone's exhaust pipe. "Looks like someone's got a beef with you," one of the officers said, barely suppressing a smile. "I want them arrested. I want fingerprints taken. I want—" "Sir, this is basically a prank. Annoying, but not criminal. You can cut the zip ties with scissors." Matt had to call a tow truck to take the Range Rover to a shop. The whole process took 2 hours, with him standing on the sidewalk in his expensive suit, looking like an idiot while people took pictures and posted them online. I drove home satisfied. Phase 2, complete. The next morning, my phone rang. Unknown number. "Is this Nate Callahan?" The voice was smooth, professional, threatening. "Depends who's asking." "This is Matt Bixby. We need to talk." "Do we?" "I think your Range Rover said everything that needed saying." "You think you're clever, don't you?" "Vandalizing my car, making me look like a fool?" "I think you made yourself look like a fool when you started screwing married women and posting about it online. That's between me and Elise. Was, past tense. Now it's between you and me." "I could have you arrested." "For what?" "The police already said it was just a prank. Maybe you should be more careful about where you park." "This isn't over." "You're right about that." He hung up. I smiled and made myself coffee. Matt Bixby was about to learn that threatening an engineer who'd already decided you were a problem was a very bad idea. I spent the weekend researching Matt's business dealings. No illegal hacking, no private investigators, just good old-fashioned public records research and social media stalking. Amazing what people post online when they think nobody's paying attention. Matt owned a consulting firm that specialized in business development, corporate speak for helping rich people find ways to get richer. His LinkedIn was full of buzzwords and fake inspirational quotes. His Facebook showed expensive vacations, fancy restaurants, and a lifestyle that seemed beyond what a small consulting firm should generate. More interesting were the property records. Matt had bought and sold several properties in the past 2 years, always at significant profits, always with financing that seemed too good to be true. Either he was very lucky, or he was very connected, or he was very creative with the truth. I made notes, cross-referenced dates, built a timeline. My engineering training had taught me to look for patterns, and Matt Bixby's pattern was becoming clear. Monday morning, I called Jenna. "I need to file a harassment complaint," I said. "Against who?" "Matt Bixby. He called me yesterday making threats. Did you record it?" "No, but I can get him to call again." "Nate, what are you planning?" "Nothing illegal. Just making sure everyone knows exactly what kind of man my wife chose over me." "Be careful. Don't give them ammunition to use against you in the divorce." "Don't worry. I'm being very careful." That afternoon, I put my plan into motion. I created a fake business email account and sent Matt a message, claiming to be a potential client who'd heard about his creative financing solutions and wanted to meet. I suggested Murphy's Bar, the scene of his humiliation, for drinks that evening. He took the bait. Murphy's Bar was crowded for a Tuesday night. I arrived early and chose a table near the center of the room where everyone could see and hear what was about to happen. Travis was at the bar, nursing a beer and pretending not to know me. Matt walked in at exactly 7 p.m., looking around nervously. He was wearing another expensive suit, but his confidence was shaken. The Range Rover incident had rattled him more than he wanted to admit. He spotted me, and his face went red. "You." "Me," I agreed. "Thanks for coming." "Where's your potential client?" "Sitting right here." "I am potentially a client. Potentially not. Depends on how this conversation goes." He started to leave, but I spoke loudly enough for nearby tables to hear. "I understand you specialize in helping men acquire things that belong to other people." That stopped him. He turned back, his jaw tight. "What's that supposed to mean?" "Well, you acquired my wife. I thought maybe you could give me some tips on your technique." The conversations at nearby tables quieted. People were starting to pay attention. "You're insane," Matt said. But he sat down anyway. Pride wouldn't let him walk away from a public confrontation. "Am I?" "Let's see." I pulled out my phone and opened the screenshots I'd saved. "Here's the Instagram post where you and Elise announced your relationship to the world. Here are the comments from her friends, congratulating you both. Here's a photo of you two at 3 different restaurants over the past month." I placed printouts of each image on the table, speaking loudly enough for the growing audience to hear every word. "This looks like a pattern of behavior, not a one-time mistake. Would you say that's accurate?" "This is harassment," Matt said, but his voice lacked conviction. "This is public information. You posted it yourself." I pulled out another sheet of paper. "Here's something interesting. Property records show you've been buying and selling houses at unusually high profits. Always with the same mortgage broker, always with financing that seems too good to be true." Matt's face went pale. "You don't know what you're talking about. I'm an engineer. I'm good at patterns. And your pattern suggests you're either very lucky or very creative with the truth about your income and assets. You can't prove anything. I don't have to prove anything. I just have to ask questions." I raised my voice slightly. "For instance, how does a small consulting firm generate enough income to support a Range Rover, expensive suits, and frequent trips to luxury hotels?" The bar had gone quiet. Everyone was listening now. How does a man who claims to be financially successful need to seduce married women instead of finding someone available? Is it because available women do their research first? Matt stood up abruptly, knocking over his chair. "I don't have to listen to this." "You're right. You don't." I stood up too, and Travis moved closer from the bar. "But everyone else will. Because this is just the beginning." Matt tried to push past me, but I stepped into his path. Not blocking him exactly, just making him go around. As he did, I accidentally knocked over my beer, soaking the front of his expensive suit. "Oops," I said. "Sorry about that. Good thing you can afford dry cleaning." Matt raised his hand like he was going to hit me, but Travis was suddenly there, all 6'3" of him, with the kind of smile that suggested hitting me would be a very bad idea. "Problem here?" Travis asked mildly. Matt looked around the bar, seeing 30 people with phones out, recording everything. His shoulders sagged as he realized he was trapped. Anything he did now would be captured and shared online within minutes. "This isn't over," he said, the same threat he'd made on the phone. "You keep saying that," I replied. "But every time we interact, you're the one who ends up looking foolish. Maybe it's time to accept that this is over, and you lost." Matt left without another word, his wet suit clinging to his chest, his dignity in tatters. The bar erupted in conversations and laughter as people shared videos and photos of the confrontation. I bought a round for the house and went home. The next morning, I wasn't surprised to find that videos of the confrontation had already made it onto local social media groups. "Local man confronts wife's boss in bar" was trending on the neighborhood Facebook page. The comments were overwhelmingly supportive, but I wasn't done yet. Not even close. I spent the rest of the week implementing phase 3 of my plan. I contacted the mortgage broker whose name appeared on all of Matt's property deals, posing as a potential client. I asked innocent questions about financing options, qualification requirements, and recent success stories. The broker was happy to talk, especially when I mentioned I'd heard good things about his work with Matt Bixby. 20 minutes into the conversation, I had a clear picture of how Matt was gaming the system, inflating his income on applications, using shell companies to hide debt, and flipping properties through a network of friendly appraisers and inspectors. None of it was technically illegal, but it was ethically questionable and financially risky. More importantly, it was the kind of information that would interest Matt's business partners, his clients, and anyone considering doing business with him. I made careful notes and prepared my next move. Friday afternoon, I got a call from Elise. She was crying again. "Nate, you have to stop this. Matt's business is falling apart. People are asking questions, canceling contracts. His partners are talking about dissolving the firm. That's terrible, I said, not meaning it at all. This is affecting me too. The law firm is considering letting me go because of the scandal. I could lose my job. You should have thought about that before you posted pictures of yourself with your boss in a hotel room. I made a mistake. I'm sorry. But this has gone too far. Has it? Because from where I'm sitting, this is just getting started. What do you want from me? I want you to understand that actions have consequences. I want Matt to understand that there's a price for humiliating people. And I want everyone who's been laughing at me behind my back to see what happens when you cross the wrong person. You're scaring me. Good. You should be scared, because everything that's happened so far? That was just me being polite. I hung up and smiled. Time for Phase 4. The city's annual Business Excellence Awards ceremony was held every October at the downtown convention center. It was the kind of event where every local business owner, lawyer, and politician showed up to network and be seen. Matt Bixby had bought a table for his consulting firm, probably hoping to drum up new clients and repair his damaged reputation. I bought a ticket too. The week before the event, I put the final pieces of my plan into motion. I'd spent a month gathering information, documenting Matt's questionable business practices, and building a comprehensive file of his financial dealings. Now it was time to share that information with the right people. I started with the mortgage broker who'd been helping Matt manipulate property deals. I sent him an anonymous email with copies of property records, loan applications, and photos showing the same properties being flipped multiple times with inflated appraisals. I suggested he might want to review his files before regulators started asking questions. Next, I contacted Matt's business partners. Another anonymous email, this time with screenshots of Matt's social media posts showing expensive purchases and luxury vacations that didn't match the company's reported income. I included photos of him with my wife, along with a timeline showing how their relationship had developed while he was supposed to be working. Finally, I reached out to several of Matt's clients, sharing public records that raised questions about his financial stability and business practices. I didn't make accusations, I just provided information and let them draw their own conclusions. By Wednesday, Matt's world was collapsing. His mortgage broker had suspended their relationship pending an internal review. 2 of his business partners had called an emergency meeting to discuss dissolving the firm. 3 major clients had canceled their contracts, citing concerns about professional conduct. Elise called me, hysterical. "He's blaming me for everything," she sobbed. "He says I ruined his business by posting those pictures." "Interesting. I thought you said it was just one night that didn't mean anything." "He's saying terrible things about me, Nate. He's telling people I seduced him, that I was trying to get information about his business deals." "Were you?" "Of course not." I thought he loved me. The desperation in her voice was almost pitying, almost. "So he used you for sex, and then threw you away when it became inconvenient. How does that feel?" "You're enjoying this." "I'm enjoying justice." "There's a difference." Thursday morning, I got a call from Travis. "You need to see the news," he said. I turned on the local morning show. The lead story was about a federal investigation into mortgage fraud involving several local businesses. Matt's company was specifically mentioned as being under review for questionable lending practices and property transactions. My anonymous tips had reached the right people. Friday evening, I put on my best suit and drove to the convention center. The Business Excellence Awards were exactly what I'd expected. A room full of people congratulating themselves on their success while networking furiously. Matt was there, looking haggard and desperate. His table was half empty. Several of his planned guests had canceled at the last minute. He was working the room frantically, trying to do damage control and salvage his reputation. I watched him for a while, sipping wine and enjoying the show. Every conversation seemed to end with people making excuses and walking away. His business partners were sitting at a different table, pointedly ignoring him. Around 9 p.m., I made my move. The awards ceremony had ended, and people were mingling during the reception. I approached Matt's table where he was sitting alone, staring into a glass of whiskey. "Rough week?" I asked, taking the empty seat beside him. He looked up, his eyes red-rimmed and exhausted. You did this." "Did what?" "Don't play dumb." "The investigation, the canceled contracts, my partners turning on me. This is all you're doing." "I'm just an engineer, Matt. I don't have the power to start federal investigations. But you have the power to spread lies and rumors. I never spread any lies. Everything I shared was public information, available to anyone who knew where to look. You destroyed my business." "No, your business practices destroyed your business. I just helped people see what was already there." Matt drained his whiskey and slammed the glass down. Several people at nearby tables looked over, sensing drama. "You want to know the truth?" he said, his voice getting louder. "Your wife came after me. She was the one who initiated everything. She was bored with her boring husband and his boring life, and she threw herself at me." "That's interesting," I said calmly, "because she told me you seduced her. She said you made her feel special, told her you loved her. I told her what she wanted to hear. Women like Elise are easy. They're so desperate for excitement that they'll believe anything." The conversations at nearby tables had stopped. People were listening openly now. "So you used her for sex, and then discarded her when it became inconvenient?" "She was a distraction. A mistake. I never promised her anything permanent." "But you let her think you did. You let her destroy her marriage for you, and then you threw her away to save yourself." Matt stood up unsteadily. "She destroyed her own marriage, and you destroyed my business. We're even." "Are we?" I stood up too, and my voice carried across the room. "Because I think everyone here should know exactly what kind of man you are." The room had gone quiet. Matt looked around, seeing dozens of faces watching him, phones recording everything. "You seduce married women by lying to them about your feelings," I continued. "You manipulate financial records to inflate your success. You throw your partners and clients under the bus when things go wrong, and when you get caught, you blame everyone except yourself." "Shut up," Matt said, but his voice was weak. "This is who you're thinking about doing business with," I said to the room. "A man who can't be trusted with other people's wives, other people's money, or other people's futures." Matt tried to push past me, but I stepped into his path again, just like at the bar. "Where are you going, Matt? Don't you want to explain to everyone how this is all a misunderstanding? How you're really a stand-up guy who just made a few innocent mistakes? Get out of my way." "Or what? You'll hit me? In front of all these people? With all these cameras recording?" Matt's hands were shaking, his face was red, sweat beading on his forehead. He was trapped, and he knew it. "Your wife is a whore," he said desperately. The room gasped. Several women made disgusted sounds. "My wife is a lot of things," I said calmly, "but she's not the one who built a business on lies and manipulation. She's not the one who's under federal investigation. She's not the one who just called a woman a whore in front of a room full of professionals." Matt looked around the room, seeing the disgust and contempt on every face. His reputation, his business, his future. All of it was gone. He pushed past me and stumbled toward the exit, his expensive suit wrinkled, his dignity destroyed. The room buzzed with conversation as people shared videos and photos of his meltdown. I straightened my tie and walked calmly to the bar, where Travis was waiting with a beer. "Damn, Nate," he said. "That was brutal. That was justice." My phone buzzed with a text from Elise. "I saw the video. It's over between me and Matt. Can we talk?" I deleted the message without responding. 2 weeks later, Matt's consulting firm officially dissolved. The federal investigation resulted in several criminal charges, though Matt himself was only fined and banned from certain types of financial transactions. His Range Rover was repossessed, his condo was foreclosed on, and he left town owing money to half the business community. Elise lost her job at the law firm and moved back in with her parents. The divorce was finalized without contest. She was too broken to fight for anything. I kept the house, the savings account, and my dignity. Most importantly, I kept the respect of everyone who mattered. The neighborhood, my co-workers, my family, they all saw exactly what happened when someone tried to make a fool of Nate Callahan. I never saw or spoke to either of them again. Some people said I went too far, that I was vindictive and cruel. Maybe they were right. But when someone humiliates you publicly, destroys your marriage, and then threatens you for defending yourself, sometimes going too far is exactly far enough. Guess you should have worried a little more about your quick trips, Elise.